Welcome to my channel. Get comfortable, get you a snack, chill. We're gonna sit and talk about stuff. So in this video, I'll share with you the thoughts that I had while reading The Scent Keeper. I started off by reading the ebook and listening to the audiobook on Libby. The ebook was on the Kindle Unlimited, which I already pay for, so that was easy to do. And then I went on to the Libby and had borrowed the audiobook for a while because life got in the way and I kind of got away from reading for a little bit and didn't have enough time for reading. I didn't make the time for it. So I had returned the Libby audiobook for a while. I do have Audible, but I don't want to spend one of my Audible credits on The Scent Keeper right now. I have to see if it's available for free or not or something. Otherwise, just stick with the ebook for now. I guess I would say that it's easier to make notes while reading the ebook, especially when it comes to like writing down a quote from it. Because another video that I want to do is like having one word and one quote per chapter. I don't know if I'm going to split that or put that together. I'm not sure yet. I could split that, I guess. Have the one word per chapter maybe be a short or something, and then the one quote per chapter be a little bit longer. I'm playing with the different ideas on how I want to do my booktube channel and how I want to do my vlogging per books. A lot of the channels that do well don't usually go super in depth on the books. It's more of having a lot of books to talk about, at least that's the way it seems. Of course, a lot of the channels that do really well, the booktube channels that do well, have been on booktube for more than 10 years. Like, those are the ones that are actually making money because they've been around long enough to get a big enough audience to have people that are willing to pay to watch, and that want to invest in them. Yeah, I guess that's it for this little clip. So during the month of April, I've been reading The Scent Keeper through Kindle Unlimited, and I was listening to the audiobook on Libby. I did return the audiobook for now. I was taking notes throughout it. I'm loving the father-daughter relationship. It reminds me a lot of my dad. And the descriptions of the island that they live on is beautiful. And I do love the little stories that he tells her. It reminds me a lot of my dad when he would tell me different stories. So for The Scent Keeper, first you had the little prologue, which I felt probably gave some foreshadowing, but of course we don't know. Like, it talked a lot about parents having secrets and stuff, so of course we don't know what those secrets are yet. The first chapter was called The Beginning. The book is in different parts. Part 1 is the island, and chapter 1 is the beginning. Her and her father had moved to the island. Her mother is not in the picture. She does not remember a time before the island. She only remembers the island and them together. Most of the people who went to the island were trying to run away from life. Her father had built a bunch of these drawers in their cabin, like wooden drawers, they carried a bottle, and in the bottle was a piece of paper, and on that paper would be a scent. Mm, Her father had told her she had asked to smell one of the scents, especially on the top of the row. They had, I believe, red ribbons on them or something, and so she was really interested in those. And he would take one down and let her smell it, open it up, the wax seal, and let her smell in the bottle. And then she would want to know the story behind the scent. So he would tell her about Jack the Scent Hunter, who is the hero of all these stories. And he would find the scents by following his nose. So that was a lot of their entertainment, would be the stories. They lived on the island and survived by foraging. They had chickens, so they had eggs and meat that way. They would get fruit, mushrooms, clams, wild onions. In the wintertime, they would have their food. They would dry their food to prepare for winter. There's a The only way onto the island is a small channel of water to come in, and it's the only access. Sometimes there would be like a bunch of water would come through, and then there would be a bunch of seaweed on the side, and he'd call it a mermaid party. And there would be crates of stuff left on the shore of the channel. And I don't know if it's boats that, like, the stuff just washes off the boats and comes up, or if it's purposely like boats delivering stuff every so often. And of course, traveling by boat takes a long time, so I'm not sure. There's no indication as to how often these boats actually visit. She would spend a lot of time reading fairy tales because they did have a bunch of books, and she loved reading the fairy tales. And she did notice that in one of the fairy tales that the story had been torn out, and he wouldn't really tell her why. There was a quote of, "If I had asked more questions, maybe things would have turned out differently." So a bit of foreshadowing there as to like what's gonna happen to where she thinks that. So I don't know for sure. Um, they would. One of the things that made me think that the boats were purposely delivering stuff was that they would put the boxes back and put thank you notes in it. So in the chapter 2, which was called The Machine, her dad had this machine to make the scent papers. He would take it down, he would aim it across the living room, and wait a minute, and then press the button or whatever, and then it would spit out a little paper, and it would have the scent on it. And a lot of times, it seemed that the paper didn't actually have a scent on it to begin with, as if it would show up later after it sat in the bottle for a while. He would only do one paper per season, and then he would write notes in a leather book, and then he would put the paper in the bottle and seal it with wax and put it into a drawer. She always wanted him to make a scent for her. So she would keep begging every time, and when the weather would finally change, she would beg and be like, "Give me a scent, give me a scent." He's like, "It's not a toy, we can't do that." But one season he finally did. He did his normal scent, and then he pressed it again and made a paper for her. And I don't know if that happened later or not. That may have happened later. No, it happened here because she'd figured it out. So he gave her 1 cent paper, and he was going to put it in a bottle in a drawer and put her name on it. But she wanted to keep it in her pocket. She had smelled it at first, and she said that she was waiting for this scent to change, which made him sad. because the scent was of the cabin of their current life, in the cabin, and the smells of the cabin, like home. It smells like home. And she hadn't noticed that yet. She was hoping that the scent was going to change because all she could smell was her home anyhow, so she wasn't telling the difference between the scent in the room and the scent on the paper. But it made him sad, and to me, I can kind of correlate that into real life as to where the kid wants to grow up and wants life to change, but the adult is like happy with the current life and doesn't want things to change. But she took the scent paper, and the next day she was out in the woods, and of course the woods had a totally different smell. So then she smelled the paper, but it smelled just like the cabin and everything in the cabin, the oatmeal, the fireplace. Um, it smelled like home, the cabin. And then it took her a minute to think and go, wait a minute, I'm not in the cabin. Why am I smelling the cabin? Oh, the paper is smelling like the cabin. The scent papers, are memories. The science of the scent papers, memories. He had taught her, the basics of science to assess the situation, eliminate the variable, determine the best course of action. So she finally figured out that the scent papers were memories. So that each bottle had a scent paper and a memory behind it. And they got home. She got home first. And then they talked, and she had told him what she'd figured out, that it's a memory. And he confirmed that the scent papers are memories, which that totally correlates in real life, because when you like scent and memory in your brain do correlate with each other quite often. You'll smell something and remember, something from your past. It's very easy for that to happen. So I liked how they wove that into this book. And I really liked, the whole father-daughter relationship and the love. You could tell that they both loved each other and cared about each other. For the drawers of the scents, the top row of scents and memories belong to Jack, the scent hunter. And it's their job to protect them. I wonder if Jack the scent hunter is basically his younger self. I'm curious if that's what it's meant to be. But during this chapter, she had mentioned that she wanted a goat. I think it was this chapter or the chapter before. But she mentioned that she wanted a goat. So in chapter 3, she asked her dad, like, hey, teach me how to be like Jack, how to find scents. And it made him sad a little bit, because that reminded him of the fact that, at some point she's going to want to venture out into the world and not just stay on the island with him forever. So he did. He taught her how to search for scents. He's like, find me an egg, and had her close her eyes and go by scent in the chicken coop and try to smell for a brand new egg. And it worked. Like, she could smell everything else at first, and then it's like, oh, there's something new. She could smell new, and it was the brand new egg. Her birthday came up, and he came back from the channel where all the boxes were, and he had a goat with him. So I don't know how long it had been. I'm assuming 6 months or a year. Her birthday is in the spring. For him, he counts her birthday as the first day of smelling spring. And then, even when spring goes away and it's winter again, and then spring comes back, he still counts that first one. She only counts the first one as her actual birthday. So they gotta go. They gotta go with the last batch of boxes. He told her that she could explore the island with the goat, but she was not allowed to go to the beach. Now, I don't know if the beach is for the channel or if there's a different beach. I haven't figured that out yet. There's no, visual map. There's no. Jeez. There's no visual map of the island for me to find that out and know. But her and the goat went exploring, and they found this ledge that oversaw the ocean, and you could see all the different boats going by. And there was actually a boy on one of the boats that went by. And the cabin that they lived in, there was somebody else had lived there before them that they called the Runaway. And that guy had supposedly drowned. He had disappeared and supposedly drowned. And when they mentioned that, I was worried that maybe that might be a foreshadowing of her coming home and him not being there and her not able to find him. Honestly, that would break my heart if they have that in this book. So I'm hoping that that doesn't become the case. Then, on the other part of my notes, we're still continuing in chapter 3, The Gift. She asked her dad why they were on the island. He said it was because people lie, smells don't. So he's not, telling her the whole story of what's going on, of, why they're there, of their history. So she's 12 years old in this chapter. She would climb the trees really high, and she would notice the different scents on the wind. She would get up every day and go looking for new scents. But on the scents on the wind, when she was up in the tree, she could smell baking bread and the smell of the, I don't know how you'd put that, the engines of the boats, essentially. I'm assuming they were coal engines at this point, from the way it's described. And then the quote that I liked from that, it's pieces of a story my father would never tell me. Which seems to be very much the case, that he's not really telling her their backstory or even his backstory. But that's why I think the stories about Jack the Hunter might be about his past and his adventures. So then we get to chapter 4, which is called The Scents. It's summer, and he started to withdraw early. Usually he would become withdrawn in the winter and, kind of saddened and pulled in to himself. But summer, and he's already started to be withdrawn. So she comes home, and he's like, the scents, they're disappearing. The papers in the bottles, the smells are disappearing. I don't know if that could be... I think the word is euphemism, or a synonym to him losing his memories. Because we don't know how old he is. But she had been sleeping in the shed with the goat. And of course, she didn't tell her dad about the ledge that her and the goat found, so she's creating secrets between them as well. And she was afraid that her sleeping in the shed instead of being in the cabin and pulling away was making the scents disappear. Because to her, they're almost like a living thing too. And like she could hear them whisper at night, and so she's thinking that her putting distance is making them disappear. Which it could be like her putting the distance between herself and her dad because she's growing up, she's pulling away, she's keeping secrets, he's keeping secrets, and it just creates more and more distance between them. But it could also be of him getting older and losing his memories, which could be why the scents are disappearing. He was gonna burn the scent paper because that's something that he had knew of, is that you burn them to send them to the gods. She could tell from how he was acting and how he was feeling. The quote was, "He had given something up, although I had no idea of its shape or origin. All I know was that my father was in pain." And it's like, that had me tearing up. That really did. So they decided to burn one of the scents, and when they did, they could smell it, and they were experiencing the memory behind that scent fully. And he was like, oh, and wanted to reach into the fire for it and take it back, but it was already gone. It was already burnt up. I cried at that point, for sure. But he started to become more withdrawn. He became obsessed with the scents. He was scared to lose them. He kept burning another and another in order to experience them. And he would burn one and be happy for a couple days, but then he'd be sad again because he was worried about them disappearing. I mean, like, if you burn them all, even one at a time, over time, they're going to disappear even quicker that way. So that's not a good cycle at all. But he kept burning them to experience them, and now the entire top row is gone. And she was worried. Like, I guess there's 3 rows that belong to Jack the Hunter. And the top row is now gone. And she's worried, like, what's going to happen to him emotionally when all the exciting memories are gone and all that's left is old versions of their life on the island. And that can equate into real life for when you start losing memories, in older. Usually it happens when you're older, when you start losing all those memories of the fun times that you had in life, and then you'll have less memories that are not treasured, and then you become more depressed. He was becoming more depressed, and she would try to get him excited to try to make a new scent, to try to see if that could pull him out of his funk, out of his depression. And this whole aspect of the father being depressed, her trying to pull him out, and her trying to grapple with her feelings around it as well, really hit home for me. Because in my life, there were a lot of times in my life where I was too depressed without knowing it to see how depressed my father was. And it reminded me of that, and it kind of hurt. But yeah. So I really am loving this book. It's a very easy read. It's very nice, and it's very heart pulling to me. But yeah, I'll have to read more. Like, I'm nowhere near finished. I had to return the audiobook on Libby, so I'll probably have to try to get that again. I'll get back in line for that. Thankfully, with the ebook on Kindle, it's gonna be a while, so I had plenty of time for reading that. But yeah, that's where I'm at. But yeah, that's where I'm at in the book so far, and I am enjoying it. But that's it for now. I'll update you again when I actually read some more of it. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.